This video is sponsored by Pakeeps, the hair replacement system for men that's also a tasty marshmallow treat. Sign up for a consultation now at pakeeps.pacom and get $5.40 off your first order. This is GTV. Balls of fun for everyone. In the world of classic games, there is a direct motion from Japan to the rest of the world, almost like a coastal trade wind. The games always seem to go in one direction, east to west. As you may know, many undergo a transformation along the way. Translation, obviously. Some get a major overhaul. Hey, here's something I bet you didn't know. A Japanese game named Doki Doki Panic became Super Mario Bros. 2. No, seriously, that happened. Okay, well, I can't tell if you're laughing, rolling your eyes, or both. Over the many years that GTV has been around, I often get questions asking if the opposite has ever occurred. If, somehow, a non-Japanese game has ever made its way to Japan. The answer is yes, though not many. Most, like Tetris and the Ultima games, had the rights negotiated, then a Japanese team built the game from scratch. But there was at least one game in Japan that received the old switcheroo like our favorite game, Super Mario Bros. 2, had. Here we go for one crazy, topsy-turvy tale that will leave your head spinning. Our story begins in 1987. That year, a simple, cute game was released for various computers all across Europe, Nebulus. Created by John Phillips for Hewson Associates, the game involves a little green frog named Pogo climbing towers that have been built in his habitat, with the intent of bringing these towers down to restore the balance of nature. Nebulus features a novel and very impressive pseudo-3D rotating effect that built the basis of the game. Pogo can move left and right, but is really moving in a circle, 360 degrees around the edge of each tower. Pogo can enter doors, which will take him to the other side of the tower, essentially moving through the center. There are objects blocking the way. Some can be taken out with a shot from Pogo, while others can't. If Pogo gets hit, he falls down to the nearest platform underneath, meaning if you land in a safe zone, you can keep climbing back up. Only falling in the water costs you a life. However, there is a running clock, so Pogo must make it to the top before time runs out. All of this creates an interesting blend of puzzle and action that is frustrating at first, but quickly becomes satisfying after the correct path and actions have been memorized. When Pogo reaches the top, the tower comes tumbling down. Then it's off to the next stage, traveling to the next tower via submarine, catching tasty shrimp snacks along the way, which increased the timer on the next stage. For 1987, the 3D effect was amazing. It's not truly real 3D, nor is the tower actually rotating. It's all just an optical illusion. In all, Nebulus was released for the Commodore 64, Amiga, Atari ST, ZX Spectrum, and a few others across the United Kingdom and the many nations of Europe. In 1988, US Gold stepped in, renamed the game to Tower Toppler, and brought the game to America. Out of the mix, one new version was created for the Atari 7800. In 1991, the game made its way to the Nintendo sphere, appearing on the NES and Game Boy with another title, Castelian, or maybe Castelian. I've never heard it pronounced. This version was released by a company called Trifix, which, as far as I know, released only this game and nothing else. A few changes were made, as Pogo was now known as Julius. The story, however thin it was, remained basically the same. All of the stages are identical to Nebulus and Tower Toppler, so you aren't missing anything there. However, in my opinion, the gameplay suffers and is not as good nor as fun as the C64 or 7800 version. The controls are not as smooth, though the rotating tower has more detail than the one on the 7800. The only big change is to the bonus stage. The deep sea shrimp hunt has been replaced with a standard Super Mario-style stage, collecting diamonds that will increase the timer. Unlike the bonus stage in Nebulus, you can fall down a pit or suffer a hit from an enemy. You won't lose a life, but that will end the bonus stage. In the NES version, the music is great, really well done. It has that kind of quality you find in games by Rare, where the music was always good. In the Game Boy version, the developers were able to put stars in the background, which is something the NES Castelian doesn't have. The bonus stages are slightly different as well, with different sets of platforms to jump over. If you get trapped on the underside, you're basically done for. However, with the small gaps on the ground, you don't need to jump. You can just walk right over it. Besides that, everything else in the rest of the game plays just like its NES counterpart. There isn't much else to say about Nebulus/Tower Toppler/Castelian, but before we head over to Japan, it's worth mentioning that the NES and Game Boy Castelians did make it back over to Europe on both the NES and Game Boy, while there was a Nebulus 2 for the Amiga and Atari ST. Now that you have an understanding about this game and its already convoluted backstory, let's take a break and gear up for the fourth version of this game, the one that got a special facelift just for Japan.
Kyoro-Chan ご講座。チョコボールをたくさん買って食べよう。
買う超チョコボール。くお。
みんなでチョコボール。
In the 1960s, decades-old Japanese confectionery company Morinaga experimented with some new creations, including attempts to market its chocolate to adults. This resulted in the product Skip, first appearing in 1963. There wasn't anything unusual about Skip, which was simply small chocolate balls that came in both plain and peanut varieties. What made Skip an adult chocolate was its packaging, a sturdy cardboard box that flipped open, rather than the standard tearaway paper package or large round aluminum tin. It resembled a pack of cigarettes. This made it portable, easy to slip into your suit pocket and not have the candy wind up melted the next time you open the box. Skip was not very successful with its target market, yet the allure of eating something made for adults made this chocolate popular with children. 2 years later, in 1965, a new product was introduced called Choco Ball, which was positioned as the all-ages version of Skip. Alongside this rollout, Morinaga had become the sole sponsor of a new popular anime series, Space Boy Soran. Characters from this series appeared on many of Morinaga's products. Soran's squirrel sidekick, Chappie, was chosen as the image character for Choco Ball, being featured right on the box. In 1967, after a run of 96 episodes, the series ended and Chappie the squirrel was retired. In his place, a new, original image character was created. A strange-looking brown and red bird with a huge nose and an unusual gait. The new image character fit well with the Choco Ball branding, was used in advertising, and eventually became synonymous with the product. Skip, meanwhile, faded from the public eye. In 1987, 20 years after the little bird's debut, a new ad campaign for Choco Ball was created. The bird spoke for the first time, uttering one word. In English, this word, kue, means eat in the volitional form, as in, hey you, eat this now. The new line of TV CMs featured a catchy jingle urging everyone to eat Choco Ball. What hooked people in was the inclusion of famous musical talent in each CM. The campaign was a smash hit. Every year, the most famous voices in Japan would sing the Kue Choco Ball song. Almost 50 years later, the song can still be heard on TV. Notice that I keep calling this image character the bird. That's because upon his creation in 1967 and during his rocket ride to superstardom in 1987, he didn't have a name. It wasn't until 1991 that this little bird finally did receive a moniker, Kyoro-Chan. Named so because his eyes are very kyoro-kyoro. It's hard to translate, but you could say it means that he has googly eyes. From then on, Kyoro-Chan's name was added to the Choco Ball packaging, while at the same time, he branched out into new areas of merchandising, toys, t-shirts, and etc. Next came the inevitable, a Kyoro-Chan video game. Rather than design a new game from the ground up, an existing game was imported, reworked, and released on the Japanese public, who were none the wiser of the slick move being pulled off. That game was Castelian, aka Nebulus, aka Tower Toppler. But why? Why this game? I was able to dig up that missing piece of the puzzle, something only discovered through intensive research. Trifix already had plans in motion to export Castelian to the land of the rising sun. The game was licensed off to Hiro, a small developer who only had a few games to their name. Promotional materials were printed and some previews of the game were covered. It seems as if the green frog would have been changed into some sort of armor-clad hero, resembling Meta Knight from Kirby at first glance. But at the very last second, this design was taken out and Kyoro-Chan was put in his place. The games were renamed Kyoro-Chan Land and saw release on the family computer and Game Boy at the end of 1992. So, what's different? Only a few things. The controls have been altered, though I wouldn't say improved upon. In the NES Castelian, as well as other versions, one button, A in the case of the NES, makes Julius fire, but also makes him jump. It all depends on if he's moving or not. A vestigial tale from the C64 and other computers that used controllers that had just one button. In Kyoro-Chan Land, the A button still functions in the same way, but now the B button has been activated, allowing you to pause the game, a feature not present in Castelian. Why start isn't used to pause, A to jump, and B to fire is beyond me. It takes some getting used to because after so many years of most games having the same control scheme, your brain is just trained to react a certain way, and very hard to readjust for just one game. Kyoro-Chan Land also features a helpful password system, which is not in Castelian. Beyond that, the music is slightly different. The title screen and bonus stage songs are switched. Strangely, the Kue Choco Ball song is not included, a missed opportunity. The bonus stages are the same as in Castelian. As a reminder, these are different than those in Nebulus. The only change in Kyoro-Chan Land is that Kyoro-Chan collects Choco Balls naturally, rather than diamonds. All of the stages are identical to Castelian and all the other related versions, and strangely enough, the stage names are unchanged and are all in English. On the Game Boy, everything that I've said for the family computer version applies here, so I won't repeat it. What is worth mentioning, though, are a few points of trivia. One being that the Game Boy version was released first. Both versions were released in a special box that looks identical to the Choco Ball packaging. Since the Game Boy version was obviously devoid of color, that box was colored black and white, just like the peanut variety of Choco Ball, while the family computer version was red and white, the same coloring used for the standard chocolate flavor at that time. And as an aside to an aside, the family computer hardware itself used the same red and white combination. Kyoro-Chan Land was released in limited numbers, and the review scores were not good. Today, the rarity of the game, the curiosity of the long journey this game took, and the sustained popularity of Kyoro-Chan have raised the value of something that back in the 90s couldn't be given away. Both versions of the game, complete in box, start at 30,000 yen, while one box of the real deal only cost 80 yen. These two games weren't the end of the line for Kyoro-Chan. In 1998, Pocket Kyoro-Chan appeared on the Game Boy by Tomy, who by this time handled all other Kyoro-Chan merchandise. It's a virtual pet game, similar to Tamagotchi. You can dress up Kyoro-Chan, take him out for walks, and of course, feed him Choco Ball whenever he gets hungry. In 1999, Tomy let Kyoro-Chan have one truly unique adventure on the PlayStation, Kyoro-Chan's Purikura Daisaksen. In the game, Kyoro-Chan travels to many exotic lands in search of photo booths, known as Print Club or Purikura in Japanese. When one is discovered, the player creates a photo that is printed out and saved in an album. The goal of the game is to make a complete album by visiting every Purikura. In each stage, while looking for a photo booth, Kyoro-Chan has to deal with a range of enemies. He can attack by jumping on them, kicking them, throwing Choco Ball, or just pecking their eyes out. In addition, Kyoro-Chan can ground pound and float, just like Yoshi in Yoshi's Island. Also, similar to Yoshi's Island, each stage has hint boxes scattered about. In the game, these are microphones. Kyoro-Chan must say his signature catchphrase to access the hint, which is more often than not explaining gameplay mechanics that present the player with the bigger picture of how the game is supposed to work by the end. We're not done yet. There's still one more tangent to this tale, one that shows the long-lasting influence that advertising can have. For all that Kyoro-Chan has done in the gaming world, his connection to Castelian is actually the least well-known and the least important. You see, without Kyoro-Chan, the world would have never experienced one of gaming's greatest characters, Chocobo. Back in 1987, when Final Fantasy II was in development, Koichi Ishii, who designed many of the elements of the game, had envisioned some kind of chicken as part of the quest. With the new Kyoro-Chan campaign saturating TV and radio airwaves, Ishii found himself humming the jingle at his desk, which led to the initial chicken design transforming into a bird with a big nose and an unusual manner of walking. The name, Chocobo, is in essence the same as Choco Ball, save for the ru at the end. And much like Kyoro-Chan, Chocobos always say Kue. In 1998, for the 10th birthday of Chocobo, and to promote Chocobo's Mysterious Dungeon 2 for the Sony PlayStation, Morinaga and Squaresoft joined forces to release a special edition Choco Ball with Chocobo on the box. The short-lived promotion turned out to be quite the collector's item, as most people did what you're supposed to do after buying candy: eat it and throw the box away. If only I had saved a few, I could sell them off to some super rich collector who is just learning this earth-shattering news, and then retire.